Hey, everybody. This is Radley Valentine. I don't know about you, but I've been sitting here sort of just rocking out to the pre-show music, doing a little chair dance. Welcome to the Art of Card Reading. This is part 3 of the 4-part series. As I said, I'm Radley Valentine. I'm the author of all of this stuff over here. So I've got 5 tarot decks, 1 oracle card deck, 3 books, and 2 more tarot decks in the wings that I am currently working on. So I am so excited to be here today. We're going to have a great time. We're going to be getting a lot more hands-on about cards in this series. We're going to be talking about the practical steps of how to find the right card deck for you, how to care for your cards. You know, what you need to do to keep them rocking and rolling and giving you precise and specific answers to your questions. How to clear and charge your cards. We're going to be looking at that. And we're also going to be looking at how to prepare for a reading, how to get ready and to know exactly what it is that you need to do a reading and do it successfully. So, like I said, I'm very excited to be here today. Now, don't worry. While this is the 3rd part of the series, if you are new to this, if you just signed up to come see little old me or you just found out about it, you can go back and see the first 2 series of this 4-card masterclass. But for today, we're going to be talking, like I said, some very practical things about how to prepare your card decks, how to get them ready to go, how to choose them. Now, this is something that concerns a lot of people, confuses a lot of people. They worry about, what if this is not the right deck for me? Well, let me tell you, I've got like 80 decks, of which like 70 are not in my world anymore, but I can't give them up. I just keep them. So you are going to find your favorites, and it doesn't mean that you might have one that is your go-to deck, the deck that you absolutely love more than any other deck. But I was actually doing a private reading just a little earlier this afternoon, and I had all my card decks out, and which deck I go to depends wholly and solely on what the topic was. So sometimes if it was a topic that's super sensitive, I might go to Guardian Angel Tarot cards, because this is a deck that gives very gentle, very simple answers. This young lady was feeling not empowered. She thought she was entrapped, and so we went to Archangel Power Tarot cards, which is all about feeling empowered and courageous and self-confident. So sometimes you might have a whole bunch of decks that are there for you so that you know exactly, based on the question, which card deck you want to go to. So, you know, whichever way works for you is the perfect way. It really is. So first up, I want to share a clip with you from my dear friend, Colette Baron Reid. I don't know if you know Colette. Colette is like magic personified, and a wise woman, very, very wise, very, very funny, but knows her stuff, has been doing this for over 30 years, like before I was born. Sorry, Colette. That's not even wildly true. But she knows her stuff. And so let's hear from Colette about, learning about different decks and figuring out which one's for me.
So let's talk about what kind of decks there are that exist. Now you can see here that there's decks from myself and other authors that are on this course, and they're all fabulous. So let's talk a bit about a general overview of the types of decks that exist. Now we know that there are oracle cards, tarot cards, and angel cards. So let's start with tarot cards, because they're the ones that are what I call a fixed system. Now, tarot cards have a very long history, but they're always going to be the same, or a slight only variation on their structure. They're always going to have 78 cards. They're always going to have similar or the same meanings to the cards. You're going to read them in very specific ways. So they're a kind of a fixed system that's been around the longest in terms of their metaphors, their usage, etc. So they have a big, long history. Now, you have oracle cards. Now, oracle cards are a fluid system. And what that means is they're not going to be the same. There's no such thing as one oracle card deck being the exact same as another one. Oh, and I should mention before I talk about them is that the way to differentiate on tarot cards is that they will have different art. You're going to notice the difference in tarot cards is mostly their art. Now, with oracle cards, you have themes. You have a specific lexicon that the person has created for you, which means that however many cards that they picked to put in their deck are going to be represented by the different symbols and metaphors that tell the deck's story on your behalf. So, for example, Mystical Shaman has 64 cards, but my Spirit Animal deck has 68. Wisdom of the Oracle has 56. Why are they different? Well, it's because their theme is different, what they say is a little different. So Oracle cards become like different perspectives. So it's like having different friends giving you different perspectives on the same subjects. So Oracle cards, you will notice, are going to be more defined by the person who created them, so the artist that made them as well, and the content that they talk about. So that's how you differentiate Oracle cards. Now, angel cards, they are obviously the domain of other authors, but they're really related to connecting to the angels or the angelic realm. So what about the variety of decks that you could reference? So I'll be honest with you, I think you have to pick one. And for me, although I've had hundreds of decks that I've collected over the years, but remember, I've been doing this for 30 years, I feel that it's really good to find one deck that you can really, really connect to, that you start your work with. And then once you recognize that eventually you might end up feeling like, oh, you know what, this relationship I have with this deck, you know, I need something different. So you might choose a different deck. Like I went from different tarot decks, for example, in the beginning of my career. I started with the Rider-Waite Coleman, and then I went to the Universal Waite. I went to the Aquarian Tarot. I played around with the Golden Dawn, and I mean, if you should have seen the amount of tarot decks that I had in my house, it's a lot. But then eventually, you know, because I had developed oracle cards, I actually prefer to work with oracle cards. But everybody is different. You may not. You might want to go to the Rider-Waite deck, or you might want to pick the Good Tarot or one of the other decks that are available to you. So you have to feel it. But we'll talk about that later.
So no, I don't have a whole lot of tarot decks or anything. But I really love what Colette says about how different card decks are like different friends, and they do have different voices, and they speak to us in different ways. And so I think that that's really important for you to think about. And what she said is true. It's like tarot card decks, you know, it's like there is a certain thing about tarot decks. They need to be 78 cards, 5 suits. You got to have your court cards. All of these things are what really make tarot. If you don't have that, it's not a tarot deck. It might be a tarot oracle deck, sort of an adapted version, which is cool. The tarot really is, as she called it, sort of stagnant. It does have a certain specific method or language that it is speaking to you in. Oracle card decks, like my Angel Answer Oracle cards, this is an Oracle card deck. It has 44 cards, but this is not just an Oracle card deck. This is also an Angel deck. So Angel decks and Oracle card decks can be this blend. You don't have to have angels to have an Oracle card deck, but you can have angels and it be an Oracle card deck. And this one, by the way, is meant to give you super simple answers, because as I've traveled around the country, one of the things that people said they wanted was, can I just get yes, no? If I ask for timing, can I just know that it's next week? And so this deck does that. And that's just its methodology. I like to call it the magic 8-ball of Oracle card decks. And so all of them are fascinating. All of them are magic. All of them are incredible. And which one resonates with your heart it just depends on who you are. Now, speaking of a heart that resonates, let me tell you about my dear friend Kyle Gray. He is one of my best friends in the entire world, and he is truly magical. And one of his favorite things is to help people find their perfect deck, to help them to know what's perfect for me. So let Kyle show you how to figure out what is perfect for you.
Okay, this is seriously one of my favorite subjects, discovering decks. I remember when I was 15 years old, when I first got into magic, when I first got into tarot, and I first got into the practice of using oracle cards and intuition. Every week when I got my pocket money, I also worked in a kitchen in an Italian place. Every week I would gather all my money and I would use that to buy different things. And one of the most exciting things for me to do was to buy different oracle decks and different tarot decks. There are thousands upon thousands of oracles, tarots, every deck you can imagine. Everything that you can think of, there is probably a tarot or oracle deck about it. And so discovering decks is such an exciting time because it's about taking time to find a working tool that is going to embody and represent the messages that are rising up inside of you, coming directly from the divine. And so finding the right fit is so important. This is about going on a journey. Like, for example, you're going out with your friends and you're going to wear some nice jeans. You want those jeans to fit right in all the right places. You want to feel good inside of them. You want to be able to move with some freedom. You want to be able to get things flowing, right? And so when it comes to working with oracle cards, you want to find the right fit. When you're working with tarot cards, you want to find something that represents you and can really become a physical representation of messages and intuition and your guides speaking with you. And when I first started getting into angels and tarot cards, they were kind of going through their revival about 15 years ago. It really started to get exciting for everyone again. And so I remember standing in the middle of the bookstore and there was tarot cards left, right, and center. And there was like Rider-Waite, there was witches this and angel that. And I remember just like standing there and being like, where do I start and what ones should I buy? And what was really, really cool was in the middle of the store there was a folder, and in the folder there was all different samples of all the different cards available. So it let you see the front of the card, the back of the card, some of the images. And that was really important for me because one of the things that I found was when I started to buy and begin my collection, and I've got hundreds upon hundreds of different oracle decks, one of the things that I discovered was if a card deck had an image or a word within the oracle that didn't feel right for me, I probably was not going to use it. And so taking time to discover the right tool was so important. And I remember that now as a co-creator of 3 different oracle decks, I wanted to make sure that they were right. I wanted to make sure that they had the right energy and they represented the right thing for me. And so when it comes to discovering the decks and discovering tarot and discovering oracle cards, let this be an exciting process. Let this be something that you take time and energy over. And now we have the beauty of the internet. You can pretty much search online for any oracle deck and be able to see most of the images contained within that oracle deck, or most of the images contained within that tarot deck. And one of the things that I discovered is that certain tarot called certain cards certain things, and certain oracles contain certain words and certain things. And so it's such an exciting process discovering the array of different tarot and oracle decks out there. And so one of the things you'll find is that you'll find a certain artist or author that you're particularly drawn to, and generally they'll create work that you can really relate to. And in my own journey, I was very much attracted to the Celtic oracles and the Celtic tarot decks because they represented the British Isles where I was born and brought up, and so all of the cards represented myths and legends and tales that I learned when I was growing up, and so they felt very relatable and very much cards that I could read because they felt like they were part of my heritage. And so now, whoever you are, wherever you are, know that there is a tarot or an oracle deck out there in the world that will suit you, that has a voice for you, something that you can pick up and really build a connection with. And one of the things that I began to discover over my time and energy and effort working with these tools was there was a certain card or cards in certain decks that I didn't always relate to or didn't always like, but then I usually found the card was actually representing something that I needed to work on or something that I could see as a flaw within me or my own spiritual practice. And so they became powerful tools and reminders to me that I can always grow and there's always something I can work on or heal in my practice. And so as you begin your journey to becoming a card reader that has real energy and real focus and drive behind you, know that the process of finding the right tool for you is a process. It might not happen overnight, but the more time and energy you put into that and taking time to find a deck that really suits you, the more accurate your readings will be and the louder your intuition will become.
Thanks, Kyle. So, and I really love some of the things that Kyle said, and I want to touch upon some of them. First of all, you will possibly get attached to particular authors or artists, but those authors tend to grow and different things come out of them. For example, for Kyle, he's done Angel Prayers, which I dearly adore, and Keepers of the Light, and his most recent deck is Angels and Ancestor Oracle cards. But you can see the evolution even in the way the card decks appear. Maybe I'll show you the back, but there's an evolution that's going on, and if you find yourself drawn to a particular author, you will evolve with them. That will just naturally happen. One of the things that Kyle said is that when he was young, he got to walk into a brick and mortar bookstore. I mean, if you have that opportunity and you're trying to find the right deck, if you have the opportunity to walk into a metaphysical bookstore that's brick and mortar, I so encourage it. I mean, these are the beloved ancestors of our entire industry, and they're struggling a little bit. But beyond that, to walk into a room and touch the deck, to touch the cards, to be able, most metaphysical bookstores have the ability to open the deck because they've got a sample deck and you can look through the cards. The internet is great, and yes, you can go look at images that way, and it's better than nothing. But when you get to touch the cards and really absolutely interact with them, it's a powerful thing. It really does help you to know which deck is right for you. And I really do like that. And picking out a card deck is exciting. And so here in my process, just so you know, when I first started getting into the tarot thing, and it was like years ago. Okay, fine. It was like 25 years ago. And it was hard for me. Rider-Waite did not resonate with me. Actually, I like to call it Waite Smith. Okay, teachable moment. Rider was the name of the publisher. And many people think that Pamela Coleman Smith was the true genius. She was the artist behind the Waite Smith deck. And so I prefer that terminology when referring to that deck. But I just didn't resonate with the Waite Smith deck. It just wasn't for me. And so I bought all these decks and I kept just pushing them in, throwing them in a box and stuff until I found this deck. Actually, it was called the Connolly Tarot. And when I opened it, I just had this automatic smile on my face. I couldn't control it. And that's how I knew I had found the absolute right deck for me. And it's an exciting process to have. Now, let's just say for grins and giggles that you do buy a deck and it doesn't resonate with you. You got a couple of possibilities. You can give it away to somebody else, but keep it. I mean, seriously, put it on a shelf somewhere. I can't tell you the number of people who have bought some of my decks, and they bought, for example, they bought Angel Tarot cards, and they absolutely loved it. But they bought, let's say, Guardian Angel Tarot cards, and they didn't feel like it resonated with them. And then they put it on a shelf, and then much, much later, they pull it off the shelf, and suddenly they realize, oh, I love it now. And so that can happen. You can grow. You can evolve in your card reading skills, and you can discover that a particular deck that just wasn't kind of ringing true to you suddenly is ringing true to you, and it'll be fantastic that you still have it. So one of the things that is really super cool is the ability to charge your cards with a particular intention and to get them ready for you in order to do writings. Now, I have, for years, Sandra Ann Taylor and I would just sort of like do that. I mean, it was like we would be at an event together, but she was over there and I was over here, and we would never connect. We wouldn't interact. And it's like, and in fact, it started at Louise Hay's 80th birthday party. And I saw her from afar and I couldn't get to her and stuff like that. And it's just like, we just kept weaving in and out from one another. And then I finally was at an event, and there she was, and I got to talk to her. And this Sandra Ann Taylor is the dearest, sweetest, most lovely person. I mean, she barely got to meet me before she had the words out of her mouth of, how can I help you? And so she is a dear soul, very wise, very smart, and she is going to teach you something now about how to really bless your cards in a way to set an intention for using them in order to manifest what you're looking for.
Once you've chosen a deck that you want to play with, and I always use the term play with because it should be fun. Let yourself have fun. But once you've chosen that, and as you're starting to play with your deck, there are things that you can do to make it your own. Put your own energy and intention into it, to charge it with blessings and intention. So let's talk about those processes now. When you have your new deck, take it in your hand, and this can be either just the cards or the whole box. It can include the box as well. And as you hold it in your hands, just let yourself feel your own energy moving into the cards. Take a moment. You can close your eyes and sense the energy. You can even sense Spirit's energy coming in through your crown chakra down into your heart and moving into your hands. And just let yourself feel the energy moving there. And then, when you want to charge it with your intention, you can hold it in one of two ways. You can hold it near your heart, or you can put it on a table. Again, either the cards separately or in the box, that's fine. However, if it's a brand new deck of cards, if it came in a plastic wrapper, you definitely want to take the plastic off, because plastic prohibits the movement of energy and intention. So, keeping that in mind, take your deck, and you can either hold it next to your heart or put your hands over the cards. And then close your eyes and create your intention. You will actually feel your hands get hot, get warm as you're sending this intention through your cards. Like, I align my energy with the messages on this card for the good of all concerned. And just sit there, sending the intention of aligning your energy with the cards and creating the good of all concerned. Now, as you feel that energy building, you can also then charge the cards with blessings. And it doesn't matter whether you do the blessing first or the intention first. It all goes into the same cards, and it has the same results. So to do the blessing, you can do the same thing. You have it all near your heart, or you hold your hands over the cards. And you can even spread the cards around if you want to, and that's fine too. So hold your hands over the cards, and especially during the blessing, allow yourself to open your crown chakra, connect with Spirit, because you're not only bringing your blessings to it, you're bringing the blessings of the world to your cards, the universe, the Spirit, and angels around you. So as you sense that energy coming to your heart and moving down into your hands, let yourself feel that energy of blessing vibrate. And you could say something like, "Dearest universe, bless these cards, bless my intention, and bless my connection with them, and bring them happiness and well-being to all who connect with them." That's just a sample. You can make your own. Absolutely honor your heart and make your own intention for your own blessing. When you're done charging and blessing the cards, you want to figure out how you want to store them. Now, I have so many decks that most of the decks that I don't use often are just in a library shelf in my office. But they're highly revered there, and they have a little special place by themselves. However, I have a beautiful little box that is just big enough to store 3 of my favorite decks, the decks I use all the time. It's a cardboard box with beautiful linen paper on it and birds and flowers. It's a beautiful box that I love to use because every time I see it, it raises my vibration, and I connect that raised vibration to the cards. If you want to store your cards in anything like a box, make sure that you don't use plastic. Again, that inhibits the flow of energy, intention, and connection to Spirit. Glass is good, and velvet material. I had a friend who used a velvet pouch for her favorite deck. So as in all things with card reading, use your intuition in determining how you want to store it, and your attitude about how and where you want to keep it. Make sure it's an uncluttered place, just because your cards have an energy unto themselves. Now, some people put crystals around their cards, and that's fine. If you're inclined to do that and you receive the inspiration to do that, I recommend it. I actually happen to use fluorite some of the time. This is especially valuable if you do readings on Skype. Fluorite is said to neutralize the energy of the computer and the internet. So if you want your cards to be neutralized after a reading, keep fluorite by that. Or when you're doing readings on Skype, definitely have a little piece of fluorite. I have a beautiful fluorite heart right next to my computer. So I do want to recommend that, especially if you do Skype readings. So one more thing about the cards, and that is clearing the cards' energy. When you're done with the reading, you can take the cards in your hand, or you can shuffle them as you simply repeat some loving words. Close your eyes, again, feel the energy moving into your hands, whether you're just holding them or shuffling them, and then repeat words like God, love, joy, and peace. These are your intentions, and your intentions vibrate in your card decks. They are a representation of you and your intentions. And through your intentions, you make this connection between you, the decks, the Spirit, and the Akashic records. So allow yourself to create intentions in all of these things, but don't get too caught up in worrying about the technicalities. Follow your intuition. Remember, you are the expert in your reading practice.
Thanks, Sandy. And I love, love, love what she said. You are the expert in your reading practice. You are. I have a lot of students who I adore. Oh, hi guys. Love you guys. I love my students. They're incredible. But one of the things I'm always saying to them is intention, intention, intention. And intention is everything. And Sandy started her talk with intention. She ended it with intention. And it's true. The cards will talk to you in the way in which you intend for them to talk to you. There's, like, for example, there's all kinds of different ways to shuffle. There's all kinds of different ways to pull the cards. Do I pull them from the top? Do I fan them out, pull a card? How can it be that one way is not the perfect way? But the truth of the matter is, the universe will speak to you in the way in which you tell it you want to talk. So, for example, I always pull cards from the top. I shuffle, 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 and the top 3 cards are the top 3 cards. Other people shuffle the cards, but then they sort of fan them out and go this one, this one, this one. The way in which that you communicate to the universe that I want to do this is the way that will work best for you. And so it's very important that you not allow yourself to become overly influenced by any particular teacher on the way that they do things. It has to be what's inside yourself. And I was talking to my students this morning, and I'm telling them, it's like, listen to your own guidance, listen to your own intuition. And plus that can change. It's like through the Art of Card Reading Master Class series that we are doing, you're meeting all kinds of new teachers. And so you might be a student of mine, and you might have been doing things my way, and you listen to Colette, or you listen to Kyle or Sandy or Denise, and you discover that it's like, you know what, something about that resonates. And just like anything, our connection to the divine, can evolve. It can change. And so you might discover that you've been doing things one way, and because you've been watching this class, you discover that, oh, wow, I like that way better. Just tell the universe, hey, we're going to do things a different way, and I want to communicate with you in this new way. And the universe will do that. The universe does not care. The universe cares about one thing. I like 2 things. One, it cares that you find your way to joy. That's the number one thing. The universe wants you to find your way to joy. 2, the universe cares that you communicate with it, that you talk, that you speak to it, and that you listen to the responses back. And I know we can get into this place where we don't really think that the universe is talking back to us, but it's usually because we're distracted by life. And so we don't realize that all of these signs that are happening, that there's white feathers and 444 and pennies and all of these angel things, because I am an angel person, that all of these things are happening. And so we miss those signs. And so it's very important to stay aware. If you tell the universe, I want you to talk to me, you have to stop and listen and go, how is the universe talking to me? Now, the next person that we're going to hear from, he's a little sketchy. I don't know. I don't know if you're going to want to trust his advice, but it's actually me. I'm going to give you some tips on some really detailed tips, because one of the number one things that gets in our way is ego. The ego that says, you're not a real psychic. You don't know what you're doing. The ego talks like that, by the way. You're not a real psychic. This isn't real. You're making this up. And so we have to clear that voice. We have to get that voice out of our lives. And so for those of you who don't know, I am actually a recovering certified public accountant. So I used to be an accountant. So I still have that left side of my brain that's very specific, very detailed, very intent on how to do things in such a way to quiet the ego, to quiet that side of the mind, so that the creative side can come forth and you can create this divine connection to the angels or the archangels or to source or to all that is, mother, father, God, goddess, whichever word you want to use. I don't care. Same thing to me. But you can have this. I want to give you some detailed, very specific ways in which to be able to make that connection and make it crystal clear so that you don't have to worry. So here's that crazy guy, Bradley Valentine, with some gifts for you and ideas on how to do just that.
All right, it's time to get hands-on with the cards. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to unwrap them. Now, they're very tightly wrapped in a plastic wrap. I have found that the easiest way to get that off is with a letter opener. Just slide it under the corner and pull through, and it gets a lot easier. Also, the first time you open them, you will discover that they are vacuum-packed in outer space. But after the first time you open them, it's actually quite easy. So we're going to pull out our cards and put the box back. We're going to need that again in a minute, so don't put it too far away. So the first thing that we are going to do is we need to bless and consecrate the cards. So there are two ways that you want to do that. First of all, you have to keep in mind that these cards were created in a manufacturing facility. They were then shipped across the country. They were handled by all kinds of different people, and that energy is in the cards. And so we want to get rid of it. So you can either do it this way, imagining the energy that is negative from other people having touched the cards falling out the bottom. Or, especially if you're a Reiki practitioner, and even if you're not, you might want to just put your hands over the cards and imagine white light coming out of your hand into the cards. So now that we've done that, we need to say hello to our cards. So we are going to turn the cards so that the images are facing towards us. And we're going to just touch every single card. So we're just basically, it's like our way of saying hello, how are you? I'm so excited to work with you. Thank you for the perfect answers. Thank you for the lottery numbers. That's just a joke. And you're going to just touch all of the cards. If you need to set them down because the deck is a little bigger than your hands, you can do that. But I've been doing this for a long time, so I can actually do this really quickly. So we go through all of the cards. And when you have touched every single card, this is when we're going to do our card blessing. So take the cards and fan them out and hold them over your heart. Every single guidebook has a blessing prayer in it, and you're welcome to use it or to change it as you see fit. I use a prayer like this, and you're also welcome to use it as well if you choose. Dear Archangels Uriel, Haniel, Jeremiah, and Raziel, please bless and protect these cards. Please let the readings that I do from these cards be of value, be of purpose, be of meaning. Let them really be of value. Let me know the words of Spirit so as to convey the words of Spirit in such a way as to enlighten, to inspire, and to heal. Now, once you've done that, you're going to want to do a shuffle. Now, there are various different ways of shuffling cards. Some people just take the cards in chunks and move them around, mixing them together. I happen to be more of your Las Vegas style shuffler. But the way I do it is that I give them an initial shuffle. So for me, I need to know that these cards are extremely well shuffled. The reason is if I ask the cards a question, shuffle, and then 7, 8, 9 fall out from any particular suit, my ego is going to get in my way. My ego is going to go, Bradley, you didn't shuffle well enough. And that's not what I want. I want my ego to be completely satisfied and out of the way so that I know for a fact that I did a good job shuffling, and the fact that 7, 8, 9 of any particular suit fell out means that is a real reading. It is not a coincidence or my poor shuffling. So here's how I get past that. So I take the cards and I give them that initial shuffle. And then I'm going to take the cards and I'm going to break them into pieces. and I'm going to shuffle each section. And I'm going to do that for each of the 4 stacks that I created. Okay, and the last section. Then I'm going to take these 2 sections and shuffle them together. These 2. And then put the deck back together again. Now, I told you I was serious about this, and I am. So there's one final step. So you're going to take the cards and turn them over, and you're going to look at each card and make sure that nothing is together that shouldn't be. Oh, look, the queen and the knight. Those cards come together in the suit. So I'm going to take the queen, put it in the middle of the deck, and put the knight at the back. I did a pretty good job because so far there's not a lot, but here's another set. The page and the knight are together. Put the page in the middle and the knight at the end. And you're going to continue with that going all the way through the deck until you get to the end of all the cards. Now you know that this is a completely shuffled deck. Your ego's out of the way, and you don't have to worry that if 2 cards come out together that are together naturally in the deck, that you just didn't do a good job. Now, another thing that can happen is while you're shuffling, is a card might just jump out. We call that a jumping card. What you do with that card is you just take it. Ooh, I like that it's the magician. We take it and we just set it aside. And you continue shuffling the cards and then lay out the cards. And this is extra information. You would read whatever cards came out in the spread, but then you would go back to this card and go, and here's another piece of the puzzle. Another thing that can happen is called reversed cards. Now, reversed cards is when a card comes out upside down. Now, there is a whole other science to reading reversed cards. I am very careful with my shuffling, but it is true that occasionally I might have a situation where a card pops out upside down. Now, I did not actually design these tarot decks necessarily to be read as reversed cards or to be read upside down. Upside down or reversed cards have a slightly different meaning. There is a fiction out there that people tend to believe that if a card is upside down, it just means the opposite of what the card means upside right. That's just not true. There's a whole art to reading tarot cards that are reversed. But I just basically take the card and turn it upside right. However, because I am so very careful with the way I shuffle cards, if a card comes out upside down, I have to pay attention to it. And so I would just give that card extra attention in the reading. Like this card too, the Hermit, the spiritual teacher. Now, sometimes when you get a deck, you'll shuffle it or you'll work with it and you'll realize that there is a duplicate card, like you might have 2 renewal cards. That's a message for you as the reader, as the person who is going to be working with this deck. I suggest you take that extra card out and set it aside and put it on your altar or in a special place that's just for you. However, if you feel that it belongs in the deck, then you can leave it there. And you'll just know that renewal can come out twice. Now, if you do that, it's so funny the way the universe works. You'll be surprised how many times renewal comes out twice in a particular spread, showing you how important that card is to that message. Another thing that I want you to sort of know about is that there is a term that's called throwing cards. And all that basically means is it's the process of shuffling and placing the cards into their positions for the reading. But you may hear that from especially old school tarotists who say, oh, I was throwing cards the other day for a client. Another term that you might hear is the term querent. It's Q-U-E-R-E-N-T, and it just basically means one who seeks, and it's a reference to a client. So if you're doing a reading for another person, some old style tarotists would call that person a taroist. All right? Now, when you're laying out cards, there are a couple of ways that you can do that. You might lay the cards out one at a time, and then only turn over the first card. Read the card, explain it to the client, and then turn over the second card. Read it, explain it to the client, and then turn over the third card. The other option is that you might shuffle the cards, lay them out, and turn them all over at the same time. Now, why might you do one versus the other? One reason for not turning over the cards except one at a time is it keeps the client focused on this particular card. Clients tend to read ahead because they're like, to be honest with you, they're looking for the doom and gloom card because they're scared. They're looking for the card that's like, oh my God, there's a scary card. And so by turning over one card at a time, you keep them focused and don't allow them to read ahead. However, there are times when you might want to turn over all the cards. If you turn over the first card and it doesn't seem to have any reference to the reading, then you might go, okay, I don't get that. Let's see if I get it if I turn over the next card and their relationship to one another. Oh, look, both of these cards are kings. Maybe that means something. And if you still don't get it, turn over the other card. You're basically doing what you didn't want the client to do. You're reading ahead. But you're also looking at all three cards simultaneously so that you can look at them in context to one another and perhaps get information about the reading that you weren't able to get otherwise. Now, at the start of this video, we talked about blessing the cards, clearing them, getting them ready for reading. You'll still need to do that from time to time. Sometimes the energy just gets... The best answer I have for that is it just feels sticky. The cards feel sticky. They don't shuffle well. Maybe you're having tons and tons of cards that are jumping. When that happens, clear them again. Just basically go through that whole process where you go whomp or adding white energy, sorting them out, touching each card, and doing a prayer to clear them again. Now, another thing that can be controversial is to touch or not to touch. And some people believe that you should let the client touch your cards. And that's great. You can do that. If you want the client to touch the deck, shuffle the deck, pull the cards from the deck, you can do that. That's an old tradition that some tarotists still do. However, if you do that, that means that you are going to have to clear the cards after every single reading. So you have to decide whether or not you want to do that or not. If you fail to do that, if you are in a situation and you're doing reading after reading after reading after reading, you're probably not going to want to have to clear the cards after every single reading. So don't let people touch the cards. If you do let someone touch the cards and you don't clear it and you do a reading for somebody else, you're probably going to get gibberish for an answer because the energy in the cards is still the last client and it won't make sense. Finally, there are some old rules about how you store your cards. And I'm all about you breaking any rules that you want to break. But in the past, people were told that the cards had to be placed in a wood box, or they had to be wrapped in satin or wrapped in silk. I have 80 decks. I wouldn't know what deck I had if I went to that. So I crafted this incredibly unique and very original method for storing decks. I keep them in their box. So I suggest that you do the same. However, this box also went through the same process that the cards did. And so you're going to want to clear the energy in the box as well before storing the cards back into their original container. Another myth that I would like to bust for you about tarot cards is that you have to be gifted a deck, that you can't go out and choose your own decks. That is absolutely not true. I want you to feel absolutely safe and absolutely empowered to go out and choose your own deck. It doesn't make sense to think that someone else is going to know which deck is going to resonate for you. On the market currently, there are hundreds and hundreds of different types of tarot decks. You should have the freedom to choose a deck that brings you joy and not let that be based on someone else's interpretation of a deck that would bring you joy. So go buy your own deck. If someone gifts you one, all the better, but choose your own cards. So that gives you a little bit of information on how to get started working with the cards.
Isn't he crazy? So I hope that was really helpful to you from the standpoint of getting past your ego, of finding a way to start to feel as though, I'm not crazy, or that the cards fall out. And because it can happen, it does happen, where cards fall out and it's 7, 8, 9 of a particular suit, or it's the major arcana 10, 11, 12. And what you need is to be able to look at that reading and say, oh my gosh, I know for a fact that these cards are shuffled. I know for a fact there is no way that this is some sort of coincidence. It is truth. And so that you can read the cards in that way and feel at a place of peace and know for a fact that everything is well. One of the things that is really important to me and that I consider to be one of my 2 life purposes, one to teach you that life is magic, but the other life purpose, to take the fear out of spirituality, to take the fear out of what you are doing. And so that's why I think it's really important to sort of bust myths, to go with those myths and just stick a pin in that bubble. And so when people tell you that something has to be done a certain specific way, I just want you to go, bleh, pshaw. Just don't buy it. Don't buy it at all. No one has to gift you your cards. You do not have to keep your cards in satin. You do not have to, there's just not anything, even stuff that I suggest that you do, it's a suggestion. It is an offer of my experience to you. And I believe that my compatriots in this class of the art of card reading feel exactly the same, that they would encourage you that no matter what they are teaching, no matter what they are trying to show you has been their experience, that if intuition leads you a different way, if your guidance is different, then go just say, no, that's not my way. That's the beauty of our community. And there is a truly amazing, dazzling beauty of our community. And that community is a community of diversity. And I don't mean necessarily of different types of people, though that's beautiful too, but a diversity of opinion, a diversity of experience, and that we all learn from that experience, and that we embrace it, that we hear other people and their experiences and we go, yes, I bless that is your experience. It may or may not be yours, but it might guide you. You might learn something. You might learn that, wow, that's something I want to embrace. Or you might learn, wow, that's something I don't want to embrace, but you learn something about your own path. And by learning something about your own path, you get closer to the divine. You get closer to being able to have this communication with all that is in a way that will be profound and brilliant and amazing and bring you joy and lead you on a path and a course towards joy. That is super, super important. Now, our next speaker. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, my very first event that I got to go to, as I mentioned it a little earlier, was Louise Hay's 80th birthday party. That was the first Hay House event I got to go to. I had just signed my first contract with Hay House, and I was there with some friends who were more prestigious than me, which would have been everyone there. And I was asked, it's like, who do you want to meet? And I told them, I said, I don't care if I meet anybody else, but I want to meet Denise Linn. Denise Linn is the real thing. She is absolutely and completely authentic in every conceivable way. She's hilarious. She's wise. She's beautiful. And I don't know how you can be in her presence or watch her teach and not just fall completely head over heels in love. So if you have never seen Denise Linn speak, I want you to watch, and I want you to watch closely. This is an open heart and an absolutely incredible person, and knows more than I will ever know. So Denise is going to talk to you about a bazillion ways to clear your cards. And so pay attention. One of these ways is going to resonate with you. And like I said, you're going to fall in love.
It is really, really, really important to clear your cards. Why? You don't want that old energy from that client or the old energy from your old reading to impact your new reading. You know, I remember I went to a chiropractor once, and it was the first time I'd seen him, and I laid down on his, chiropractic bed, and all of a sudden my shoulder started to hurt. And I said, could you tell me about the last client that was in here? And he said, yeah, they came in with a really sore shoulder. And I said, yeah, I know, because he hadn't, most chiropractors don't, but he hadn't cleared the bed. So I kind of laid into that energy. It's the same thing with your cards. So how do you do it? How do you clear it? I've got so many ways that you can do this, and it's all fun. I love clearing cards, I guess because I love new beginnings. Here's one of my favorite methods. Now, to tell you about this method, I'm going to take you back in time to when my daughter Meadow was little. She was maybe 3 years old. And there's a method that I use if things aren't flowing well between me and another person. I visualize a big rose between me and that other person. This way, my communication is filtering through the rose, and their communication is filtering back through the rose. It kind of soothes the temperaments, if you will. So I'd never told Meadow, my daughter, about this. Someone was in the house, things weren't going well. I'd visualize the rose. And she walks in and she points at the space between me and this other person. And she goes, Mommy, look at the rose. Look at the rose. And it was such a powerful moment because I realized it wasn't just a visualization. That when you have intent and emotion together, it creates a reality in the inner planes. So a powerful thing you can do to clear your cards is you visualize a beautiful rose, and then you take your cards in your hand and you just hold those cards in that rose. And you can tell when it's cleared, it'll feel lighter. You'll feel like, oh, it feels lighter now. Works like wonders, works like magic. What are some other methods? Well, with my Native American heritage, we use smoke a lot for clearing. I've spent time with the Zulus. Whenever there's any object that needs to be cleared, they use smoke. I've spent time with the Aborigines in the outback. What do they use when something needs to be cleared? Smoke. In my own native culture, we use smoke for clearing spaces and objects. So smoke works really well for your cards. Usually, sage is great. Sage, sweetgrass, juniper. There's so many different herbs that you can use. But some people even use incense. I like sage, the best I like white sage, but any kind of smoke can work. Holding those cards over the smoke and just kind of turn them slowly. Just allowing that smoke to just roll over them. We believe that all that's not needed is taken to the heavens and neutralized there. And on that smoke, blessings come down. So that's a great way. You can also clear them by the sun or the moon. I love clearing cards by moonlight. Okay, make sure it is not raining. That would be terrible. Your beautiful cards get rained on, so do it on a clear night. Beautiful, especially full moon, but you can also clear them by the stars. You just put it out someplace where it's exposed to the night sky. Or you can take it out in the morning. And in the morning, if you do it overnight, it's best to just leave it out all night. But with the morning sun, even 1 hour is enough. You put them out in the sun. Now make sure it's not so hot it's going to curl your suns. But again, that will clear it. Tuning fork, great way to clear cards. So how do you clear your cards with a tuning fork? Did you know if you have 2 tuning forks and you hit one and you bring it close to the second one starts to vibrate? Isn't that interesting? Well, the great thing about using a tuning fork is it follows along the grain. If I put it here on the wood, it would actually travel along the grain. Well, cards are made out of wood fiber. So when you place that tuning fork, you hit it and you place it on the cards, it vibrates the entire deck. It's great. Here's another way to clear the cards. Love them. You just take those cards, you hold them to your heart, and you just love them. You can also, I mentioned naming your cards, so you can just say, hey, Sam, we're on to a new reading now, so better clear it up. And you wait till Sam says, yep, done deal. I know it sounds silly, but the darn stuff works. I don't care how silly things are if they work. That's always been my bottom line in the work I do. It might seem ridiculous, it might seem superstitious, but if it works, I actually don't care. And these methods work. Here's another one that's very traditional, and that's the knocking one. Works well. Take those cards up, and you want to clear out the old wham, wham, wham. Make it loud. Knocking shifts energy. You know, here, after a performance, everybody claps. In Asia, if it was a spectacular performance, it was silent afterwards because people wanted to take that energy back with them. They believed if they clapped, it would dissipate energy. Loud sound does dissipate the energy. You can drum over your cards. You can take a bell and ring over them. Similar to the tuning fork, the sound vibration penetrates through them and clears those. You can also, and this is a great method, you can get some tumbled stones, like citrine. I love citrine with cards. And you can take those cards and you can just put them in the citrine, kind of have a whole lot of the tumbled ones, so they're completely covered, and just let them sit there for an hour, and that will clear them. Make sure that if there's crystals, tumbled stones that you use for this, that you periodically cleanse them with water or cleanse them out in the sun. These are all excellent methods that you can use to clear your cards. The last 2 I'd love to tell you about are holy water and affirmations. So holy water, what the heck is holy water? Holy water is water that has been blessed. Now, if you're familiar with the work of Dr. Emoto, you know about the secret messages in water. You know that water responds to intent. Water responds to prayer. You know, his research where he freezes drops of water, water that's been loved and water that's been not loved, and the crystals are totally different, even though it's the same water. It's kind of like that. Water holds energy. So how do you create your holy water, and how can you use that to clear your cards? No, you are not going to be pouring water on your cards. Don't worry. So you take water, presumably clear, clean water. If you can get rainwater, that's great, or creek water. But if not, if you get bottled water, still bottled water, but make sure it says bottled at source. Bottled at source, that's important. And you put that in a clear glass bowl, and you can put that out under the stars, under the sun. You can take your hands over it. My first teacher was a Hawaiian kahuna, and she talked about the power of using your hands in rainbows. So you can just put your hands over the water or a hand over the water and visualize rainbow light going into the water. The instant you do that, that becomes holy water. That becomes sacred, hallowed water. Or you can just imagine that light from your heart is radiating into the water. Or you can ring a bell over the water. Or you can float flowers in the water. Make sure, if you're going to do that, make sure that you've picked the flowers and asked their permission, usually right when the sun's starting to come up. And then if they say no, do not pick them. If they say yes, and you say this is for a holy reason, okay, I'm in. And then you float those flowers on the water. That will energize, and especially if the sun can come down on those flowers into the water, you've energized that water. So now you have And you don't have to do all of those methods, you can do just one. So now you have this very special water. And so you can take a few drops of it, put it on your hand, rub your hands, and just hold the intent that through your hands, this energy penetrates and clears the cards. And this leads to the second method, and one is you can do this, but you can also add affirmations. So you can do this with the holy water, or you can simply put your hands to your heart or to the heavens, ask for support, ask for love, ask for guidance from the angels, guides, guardians, master guides, ancient oracles. Ask everybody, for gosh sakes, get as much help as you can get. Bring it into your heart, to the cards, and then you can say affirmations. You can affirm that these cards are cleared, ready for a new cycle. That these cards are sparkling, vivid, and bright, or whatever words feel right. You don't have to talk in a really holy way. Speaking from the heart in an authentic way, that's what will clear your cards. That's what will sparkle your cards.
I mean, is she not just like everything? I mean, seriously, she is everything. If you would like to know more about clearing, Denise has a book called Energy Strands. And I thought, stupid me, I thought I knew all about clearing and blah, blah, blah. I was like a fourth grader. Until I read her book, Energy Strands. And then I was like, oh, this is college. Okay, got it. So, I mean, I love everything that she says and the way in which she says it. It is important to clear your cards. It's, as I said in my video, it's like if you let someone else touch your cards, you got to clear them because you've got more than one person's energy suddenly in the cards, and you don't want to go into a situation where the cards are not perfectly clear. Now, one of the things that's great about the things that Denise talked about is that she gave you so many ways. And what was I talking about as we led into Denise's talk? It was that you have to find the way that resonates with you. So if you're going to pick flowers or imagine a rose or use smoke, sorry, or whatever way you're going to use, it has to resonate with you. Personally, I would love to use smoke, but my husband would kill me. So you have to kind of balance that out as well. So that was, that's such amazing information. And that does make me just want to remind you again that there have been episode 1 and episode 2, and you don't want to miss those if you have missed those. So folks, that's pretty much it for my part of episode 3 of the Art of Card Reading Masterclass. So remember to watch the final class on Thursday. You're not going to want to miss it because it's Kyle Gray. And you don't want to miss Kyle Gray because he is a blessing and a joy and hilarious and so deep, and you're not going to want to miss it. He's also going to have Reed Tracy on as his special guest as well, so don't miss it. And he's going to be talking more about giving readings to other people, showing you some simple spreads, what to do with negative information, which I kind of don't believe in, but that's okay. Kyle will sort that out for you. Make sure you tune in. I'm Radleigh Valentine. Thank you for spending time with me. I had a blast. I hope you loved it. And always remember, life is magic.